over the span of a few days instead of having to sell everything right now.
And what about the children? The children?
Well, the statistics I have for literacy rate is about 10%. And that's like, if you take into account the neighboring communities have 70% of literacy rates, so most of the kids don't go to school.
You don't?
No.
No.
Well, it's changing now, but up to like not even 10 years ago, you wouldn't see a good job at school. So then maybe like the younger ones now, but that didn't, of course, change the literacy rate thing. So, and with the 200 settled families, then the statistic would change as well, which is interesting. And like in my approach, I will never put like all the good jars together in the same vocal. For the same reason, I will never like talk about a country and put like everything in the same vocal. So I'll be looking at the difference as well between, or the communication that there's in communication between the settled families and the ones that are still living there from their nomadic lifestyle. I would think that the people that settled have problems with the community that is not settled, right? Like they must have been other problems. It could be like people change their course like that because of accidents, if they lose all of their herds, well then what's the point, right? Like they go into a house and start to cultivate a piece of land kind of thing. Like these things happen, but like to have a movement of a couple hundred families like getting out of the group, there must have been like a cleavage at some point. So that'd be also like an interesting thing to see. And now like the ones that are settled are taken as an example, like the abilities to say, oh, these guys do it, why don't you do it? You know?
And by themselves, they must be like, you don't want to become like these people who are like settled, like, so it's
Yeah,
like
look at
the
them,
conflict must be there, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they don't want any outside influences really entering.
What language do you speak? The ones I've met speak a good Hindi. The name of their own language is Dogri, and I don't know to what extent it is influenced by Hindi.
Dogri is also a language of some nomads or local Kashmiris.
The reference, and I know for the I've been reading in the bamboo jars. I've been told that actually in Kashmir they are like good jars. There's a good jar library where they store the good jars were so independent at some point that they had like all their birth certificate and marriage paper and things like that written in Urdu and stored in Kashmir. But I'll have to see like if actually the papers from Halo traveled all the way there, or they got lost, or somebody has them somewhere like in a mosque or something like that. So they had their own archive. They were operating by their own law. I mean, in India you have different set of laws. You're gonna abide by the Muslim laws for weddings, of course nowadays, but like up to a recent history where they had their own system. So always working like through the meshes of majority society around them, and keeping things separate.
Have you looked at any other groups in other countries that have minority groups, maybe nomadic or non-nomadic groups in other countries? And I was just wondering, like, if there's anything that's particular to the Indian context, or if the situation that's faced by the Van Gujars, if that's has counterparts in other countries as well. Like
I mean, the more you compare, the more things look similar, kind of thing, right? So like there will be textbooks on nomadic people or on minorities. A few things are the same all across, but that doesn't give you an idea of like who is a nomadic or a minority individual belonging to its own community. So I'll be looking for. I'm not so much interested in like the comparative approach to such an extent. Like my only comparison, as I was pointing out, would be maybe like the ones that settled recently and the ones that are nomadic, to see like what happened, what are the motivations of the people. And that, for me, is a worthy comparative approach. Whereas if I was going to Siberia, to compare like the fights of the Siberian nomadic, give me a name please, then you know it.
No, I just said nomads.
Yeah. So that just like smoothen out the differences, right? I mean, I'm very interested into the friendship relations between like some of the Tongia people, the tribe people, and the Vangujar, because like they had at some point to find their point of similarities because they fight through the same law and the same organizations. So they do, like, I mean, I was saying they keep separate, but at the same time on some issues they come out and they try to work together as a group. And there's so much prejudices from both sides. Like that is a very like hard kind of friendship, but they still have to talk and like, you know, be nice to each other. And it's very interesting to see that happening as well. So.
Do you know anything regarding the type of Islamism they practice?
Yeah,
if there is something unique about it, or
they have their own saints, right? Like the Sufi usually are like locally based kind of thing. So these are not guys that like ever dream, or maybe some of the more influent ones, if such guys exist, look at going to Mecca, but like for themselves, they do have their own like, you know, pilgrimage and stuff like that, and they're going to interpret the whole book through that more localized history. But otherwise, I mean, like for me, the fact that they're vegetarian is quite something. And for like their specific rituals. Oh, I heard one thing. When a marriage occurs, the groom goes into the bride's family for a full year to work there.
Sorry? For 1 full year to work there?
Yeah, and then the wife comes. So it's, I mean, okay. So where did they tip the base for that? It's like, that's what makes the Vangujar to be so interesting, is that they've been influenced so much by other people. They've like created their own ways of life as well. It's fascinating.
How do you think that you're going to be received as an outsider in the community? Do you have any idea?
I don't think it's going to be hard at all. I'm a non-practicing Muslim, so I'm just going to practice for the time I'll be there, right? So that's one thing. Then the encounters I have with them is like they're very interested to have somebody, because I mean they're part of like advocacy groups and stuff like that. So for them, like they're gonna try to use me in a way. I know that I'll be like put right in the middle of all their fights and their claims, and so I mean we can collaborate in some aspects. And I need their collaboration for my study. They'll need me at some point. I think it's going to...
Since you met them, are they docile or are they very aggressive and are they like violent? Are they like docile by nature or what?
Are they?
Docile by nature or what?
Docile?
Docile.
It's like, are they gentle or are they
Well,
aggressive?
The people that work with them say that it's like the nicest people. Yeah, actually there's one social activist I know, she's a woman, and when she was about 20, she went and like did immigration with them. People from the villages, you know, villages, everything, don't go with them, they're gonna do like, you know, atrocious things to you, and like, you're never gonna come back, and whatnot. And I mean, like, she's not a Muslim even, like, and she had the greatest time, and like since that time, actually, in her organization, she is the one. Although she recognizes that because like the woman issues like among the Vanguijars are pretty absent because they don't let the woman go out too much kind of thing, you know, like they're not overt like and they don't respond very well to the calls of the association that ask them to bring their women to the councils, the assemblies and things like that, whereas like the Tonyo people do bring, you gotta put some pressure on the guys, but they do bring their wives. When once like they've been threatened to, we'll close the assembly if you don't bring your wife, then they start to bring them. The Vancouverans don't at all, they don't bother. Like, but she recognizes that, but she's still